Lewis Hamilton and Loic Serra's integration into Ferrari is very, in all likelihood, to have given a huge raise to the auto, before the season has even began, as reviews emerged that the 1L struggles of the 7-time world champion could come to an end, leading to 2025 going head-to-head in opposition to one of the excellent qualifiers inside the league. Hamilton can have a totally difficult task to maintain Lear at the back of, or maybe get ahead of him in the first place. However, the changes that Serra made are going to change the narrative towards Hamilton a piece greater. Hashburn says his interview with Serra reveals a lot about Hamilton's backstory. Here's a combination of Barrett's than we may want to have predicted. With this in mind, can Hamilton start his Ferrari tenure with an early dominance? And if so, how will the Leclerc champ respond to this one? Of the factors that brought Hamilton to Ferrari is Lo Serra, the man who shared the equal beliefs as Hamilton concerning the zero-pod design in Mercedes, and the man who's going to serve as the technical chassis director in Ferrari Ove Route. It seems like he did recognize a thing or two approximately the automobile earlier than telling Hamilton about it. And it is like what delivered the attention of the 7. Ferrari, time international champion, because if you study how things went down with Mercedes, he did not even test out the auto earlier than signing the deal with the Maranello-based Totally squad. But now the situation is massively different, and after the huge underperformance from Hamilton during qualifying compared to Russell, which can be pinned right down to the fact that he became using experimental setups with the W5, it is highly unlikely that the 7-time world champion is going to revel in the equal troubles here in Ferrari once more. The key to this is Loic saw due to the fact. An Italian report of Motorsport.com stated that the fundamentals of the automobile were altered and changed, and that has affected the auto's development to a degree that is extra volume. Loic saw is operating difficult on the 2025 model of the car due to the fact, in case you'd ask for sir, then the group is in complete competition for the championship next year. And that is why they won't give up assets as early as the others to make investments in the newly regulated technology, despite the fact they're going to do it at a sure point within the next season. On-lap performance of the Ventures, 677. As the automobile is being known as proper now is going to be a big raise exactly because Serra's location of specialization is car dynamics. The expertise of Serra will benefit Hamilton in lots of many approaches, and one of the most crucial ones is the suspension components, just like the Tour and bars. The surprise absorbers that may assist Ferrari advantage even greater pace over one lap way to the fact that Ferrari has labored extremely intently with Pelli concerning the tire development in 2025. Serra has already applied modifications to the car that have altered and changed the primary conduct of it, something that Enrico Cardo couldn't pull off. And the handiest substantial element they preserving from his era is the rear suspension setup. Pushrod Ferrari has followed the front pull rod layout, as it's obviously a large work achieved no longer through Serra but the team of engineers around him as well, Diego Tondi, Fabio Mondi as well as Marco Adugno. The aggregate of those engineers have labored heavily in the direction of what's known as a change within the method of weight distribution of the car. Therefore, Ferrari hopes and expects that similarly profits could be made within the place of overheating and managing longer race stints, which, if we are to study how 2024's version of Monza has ended up, is honestly a step in the right direction, and it may most effective get better from here on. And that is why a 99% trade inside the vehicle is coming for 2025, as Ver believes that the competition could be very tight, and they need to make ambitious moves in order to attain bold consequences. Whilst speaking approximately, the Frenchman said, if it will be competitive, we're going to find out in Bahrain. On occasion you don't realize you're taking dangers until afterwards. The automobile can be absolutely new. I assume may have less than 1% of the elements in commonplace with the 2024 automobiles. It is a extraordinary project. However, the identical applies to all and sundry. We cannot say now if 2025 might be our year, but I trust the assignment we're operating on, it will still be a severe project like the one we simply finished. I am very proud of how we tackled problems this year, but we need to take every other step towards consistency. Of course, these are not the only changes that we are going to see on the car. The wheelbase is going to be revised, and the gap goes to upward thrust to absolutely the restrict, allowed by using phone's technical guidelines for proper restriction. Thus, the best glide structure for a state-of-the-art look good for early career cyclists can be achieved with roof allowance for fine deal. The wheelbase is also made of metal alloy that never loses heat, 600 millimeters. This could be each appropriate and awful, due to the fact even as it will likely be high quality for conventional circuits because of greater downforce being generated way to the greater surface vicinity circuits, like Monaco, Singapore, and Hungary, will be the weak spots for the Ultra Metallica force vicinity circuits, like Monaco, Singapore, and Hungary will be the weak spots for the Ultra Metallica force vicinity circuits group, and they must find a compromise for tracks like those. However, Sarah has decided to make those ambitious adjustments, and what is well worth noting is that Hamilton's task goes from being very crucial right here. He will try and prove to the whole Formula One global that the spell in Mercedes changed into merely because of the team and not the driving force, and that he still has it in himself to win races and compete for championships. That is what he came to do in Ferrari within the first vicinity, and that's what he's going to do until his career is up if it ends with the Maranello Group of Direction. What we ought to now not forget is that Lear goes against one of the exceptional, if no longer the fine qualifiers on the grid, Charlotte Clear. If those modifications are reaping benefits, the overall performance of the automobile, and no longer going to be centered on the riding fashion of Hamilton completely, then Lear goes to advantage plenty from it as properly. That is, further terrible information for the Brit because his teammate is going to get hold of a lift in what he has been doing pretty properly at some point of his profession, turning in a on-lap masterpiece, and there are sure concerns that that is the purpose why Lir is probably the first champion for Ferrari after Renan's 2007 campaign. Ralf Schumacher, as an instance, does not consider that Lir can repair the troubles of Hamilton, because no longer most effective did he say that the 7-time international champion isn't precise at giving feedback closer to the engineers. But he is likewise going to warfare to evolve to the contemporary automobile's technology. Sure, Hamilton did alternate quite some eras in his career in Formula One that started all the manor lore back in 2007. However, he appeared to have the finest trouble with the ground effect one, and now that the vehicles have become heavier and slower to drive, it exposed a weak spot that we didn't realize Hamilton had inside the first vicinity. Elaborating, in addition, in this, Ralf said Veer may not truly be capable of assist to Hamilton, simply as Wolff couldn't do it this year. Neither of them is accountable for the layout of the automobile. In conclusion, Lewis has to conform to the characteristics of the automobile, and now, not the alternative manner round today. The automobiles are heavier and slower to force. There is less mechanical grip, which means that you need to trade your riding style mainly inside the braking zones, and that is precisely where Lewis misplaced time to Russell. It became specifically evident in qualifying that Le regularly not knew precisely how to interrupt. That is why he often had troubles hitting the apex. He changed in too used to braking extremely late, but that was now not viable with the Mercedes. What is even extra interesting is the truth that Ralf has positioned Lear on the pedestal in terms of being more competitive in comparison to his teammates, because he's a good deal smarter than we give him credit for regarding the car's setup. Each of the drivers have one flaw that they need to fix sooner in place of later, no longer relying on their engineers and their team too much due to the fact we've got visible what takes place, whilst a driving force has self-assurance like signs on occasions, like Monaco and Silverstone in 2022. Be that as it can, Ferrari will in reality have a lot to reflect on, consideration on with this duo, because it is able to move both manner. It can be a candy headache like Ferrari explains, as they make combat for one finishes, or maybe a 2016 version of Mercedes in which crashes will be present in nearly every race, with the difference that the rest of the grid will capitalize hugely on them. In contrast to in 2016, with all this in thoughts, do you watch that Hamilton's qualifying woes might be constant via the cutting-edge modifications from Sarah? And in that case, do you watch that the 7-time international champion is aware of what is awaiting him in Ferrari from 2025 onwards? Allow us to realize in the remarks beneath, and in case you're utterly disenfranchised, in a few words he will breathe peace into the minds of his fellow racers. Terrific. Interested by the debatable reunion of Hamilton and Cullen in Ferrari? Make certain to check out the video. It truly is appearing on your screen proper now.